All right, welcome back to Shameful Locks. My name is Gabriel Costa, my co-host over here, Blake Profio. Welcome to Week 11 of the NFL season. Thursday night action happened last night. Bengals Ravens went on last night, and I think we were all kind of expecting, hey, we're finally going to get that good Thursday night football game, and then we got let down like normal. Joe Burrow got hurt, Lamar Jackson got hurt. He went back in the game, and then Mark Andrews went down. So lots of injuries, ended up being a pretty shitty game in my opinion, despite the over actually hitting for once on a primetime standalone game. But Ravens did win that one by 14. Any thoughts on that one real quick, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I had the Bengals winning. I put some money on their money line, but I think if Joe Burrow stays in the game, I think they win. But I mean, they're not good enough overall to win divisional games without Joe Burrow, so that hurts. But I love seeing the Bengals lose. Like their season's kind of toast right now. 0-3 in the AFC North. What was it, like 1-4, 1-5 in the AFC, and then the health of Joe Burrow. So I think they're done. So good riddance.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right. I feel bad because I like Joe Burrow, but I hate the Bengals.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I think Burrow's a pretty cool guy. Graduated from school from Ohio State, graduated from football at LSU. But yeah, I feel bad for the kid. I like you said, I think they're done at 5-5. We are recording on a Friday, so we are able to actually give you a full update on that game. But we need to recap last week real quick, which ended up being a really good week for the boys. We actually had our supreme leader, Mr. Timothy Triplett, in for one episode there. He said, "Screw you guys, I'm not going in this week," because I don't know if we got any longtime fans out there, our supreme leader Tim is not the best gambler. Last year, he was really poor in that department, but he started off in a winning way. I'll recap that here in a second. But if you tailed all 9 of our picks this past week for Week 10 of NFL, you were up 3.45 units. Meaning, if you put $100 on all 9 of our plays, you'd be up $345, which is pretty cool. Not saying I did that, but I wish I would have. That would have been pretty sweet. But yeah, let's jump with the recap real quick. We'll start with Blake. Blake, you had 49ers -3. That was as free as can be.
yeah, yeah. Great win. They beat the crap out of them like I expected them to. So
Yeah, that was an absolute dick smashing. It was bad. And then we had, or sorry, not we. You had Josh Allen over 32.5 rushing yards. That one, fortunately, did not. That came up way short. I think he only had like 12 or something like that.
yeah, I mean, I really thought like, hey, their offense is struggling. He's going to run the ball, be a hero, but I guess he didn't want to do that, or he's being told not to for his health. So whatever.
Yeah, and again, we can live with that since everyone had a winning week. Winning week's a winning week. But again, as normal, Blake stays perfect on his shameful locks. I tailed this one pretty heavily, and it worked out. We were actually had the boots on the ground for this one. We were at the Packers-Steelers game this weekend, and he had George Pickens over 41.5 receiving yards. I think he finished with like 45.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky on that. He had like 17, and then he had like a 28-yard reception in the third quarter, and then that's basically all he did all game. I mean, they didn't pass the ball a lot, but I got pretty lucky that he caught that ball. So
Yeah, yeah. He actually had one, I think, in the fourth quarter for another big one, but it got called back for holding or something like that. But I think he only had 3 catches on the day for 45 yards, 46 yards, something like that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it only hit because you made it your shameful lock, and you can't lose one, obviously.
yeah.
All right, so my picks for my game pick this week, I went to the Colts -1.5. They were playing in Germany against the Patriots. We ended up watching that one in a parking lot at a tailgate for the Packers Steelers game. It was pretty sweet. But the Colts did prevail 10-6. Super sweaty, super low scoring. I should have just went with the under. But again, Colts -1.5. It cashed. So that's a winner for me. And then this one was actually a tough loser for me because I really was this close to making it my shameful lock of the week. Was Will Levis over 225 passing yards. I think he finished with like 198 or like 200 exactly or something like that. He definitely had opportunities, but the Buccaneers defense was swarming him. I think he was getting sacked a ton. His receivers were dropping balls. Just not great. And then my lock of the week was Jets Raiders over 3.5 field goals total. That cashed super easily. There were 3 in the first quarter, and then I think it cashed like the very beginning of the second quarter. I think there ended up being like 6 field goals in that game. So field goals stay on top. Love them. God, I love field goals. Real quick, if you tailed all 3 of Blake's picks, you went up 0.77 units. You tailed all of my picks, you went up 0.95 units. Blake is now a cool 18-12 on the season, positive 4.62 units. I am now 13-17 on the season, minus 4.41. I'm climbing back up. There's still lots of games to be played. Well, I need to finish positive. That's my goal. And real quick, I know he's not here, but I'll cover our leaders, our picks. He went 2-0-1 with 1 push. He had Browns +6. They ended up beating the Ravens outright. And then he had Jordan Love over 218.5 passing. That crushed it. I think he had like 290 or something like that against our Steelers. And then he had Lions -3, which was a push because they won by 3. So Tim ended up going 1.73 units positive. He is now 2-1-1 on the season for plus 0.73 units. Feels good. Like I mentioned, good week for the boys, and hopefully we can carry that momentum into week 11 here. But before we go ahead and get started, as always, we always talk about the bye weeks. We got this week Falcons, Colts, Patriots, Saints all on bye. So as always, we will not be betting on them. And without further ado, Blake, me or you, who's going first here?
I think you started last week, and the boys were buzzing a little bit. So let's keep her going that way.
All right, I like what you're putting down here. All right. So as always, we always go ahead. If you're a new listener or a longtime listener here, we go ahead and do 1 game pick, 1 player prop, and then one of our shameful lock. It can be any bet. It'll be our favorite bet of the week, our favorite play. So I'll go ahead and start us off with my game pick this week. I'm going to the Bills-Jets game, and I'm going with the under 40 points even at -110. I got this at Caesars. Part of me wanted to take the Jets +7 here, but I learned my lesson. Was it when they played on Sunday Night Football, or was that Monday Night Football? No, Monday Night Football against the Chargers when we took them 2 weeks ago, and they brutally let us down. So I'm not going to go ahead and do that. I learned my lesson. I won't back the Jets here again, but I like the under in this spot because I think the Jets have definitely had the Bills number over the last 2 seasons. The Bills are struggling as they already are. They just lost to the Broncos. They're sitting at 5-5, losing 3 of their last 4 games. I think the Bills are reeling right now, and I think the Jets over the last 2 years have just really had, like teams are able to play like there'll be one team that stinks, and then for some reason they always play really well against one team. That's what the Jets do against the Bills over the last 2 years. So I expect this to be a really close game. 3 of the last 4 games played between these two have been 1-score games, and this matchup has gone under 40 in the last 4 times they played, with an average total of 33.5 points. So again, I'm liking this to be a classic divisional game with real close scoring. And I think this will honestly come down all to the Jets on this one, mostly because the Jets can't score points, which is great. And the Jets have a great D, which is great because that means the Bills won't be scoring points. And the Bills' offense has been, like I said, really struggling over the last beginning of the season. And again, I like this to be an old school divisional game here.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. The Jets, they can't score points. Their offense is pretty terrible. They have Breece Hall. They don't want to run the offense through him, which is really stupid. That's just my opinion, though. And then, the Bills their offense is also struggling, but the defense of the Jets, I mean, they're a solid group. Sauce Gardner, he's a real deal. He's kind of kept a cap on Stephon Diggs, too, and that's kind of, Josh Allen's main guy. So, I like the pick. I think it goes under. So, yeah.
Need it.
All right. Well, we'll head to my game pick. This one's a little risky. Like I said, most of my game picks are based off feel. So I'm feeling the LA Rams money line over the Seahawks, and I got that at +100 on ESPN Bet. So the Rams, they've been injured all season. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford. So they're coming off a bye week. So that should give him time to get healthy, give Sean McVay some time to dial up a game plan against a divisional opponent that they see, twice a year. Um, I think the Seahawks are frauds. I really just don't think they're good. I think they have a cupcake schedule every year. The Rams have only won one of four home games this year, so I do think they're due for a home game win. Um, I think Matt Stafford's going to turn it around this game. He's had a very, very down season. He's been injured, just throwing some picks. Um, Last year, the Seahawks swept the Rams. And then this year so far, the Rams beat the Seahawks, I think, in week one.
Yep.
And I think, it's going to be a little reversed here, and the Rams will sweep the Seahawks this year. So I'm going to go with the Rams, expecting Stafford to bounce back, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua to have big games.
Yeah, I like that too because they're coming off a bye week, so they've had an extra week to get healthy, game plan. The Seahawks, I think you're right. I think they beat up on really crappy teams, but then when they play a team that's average or above average, they shit their pants.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I like that pick. Let me go ahead and shift over to my player prop of the week. I am going with Josh Jacobs over 82.5 receiving plus rushing yards. I got this at minus 115 on DraftKings. And let me start off here with I'm coming back to another receiving plus rushing prop this week, and hopefully I have better luck this time around. Last time, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I took Alvin Kamara on this market, and it did not hit. But hopefully Josh Jacobs can come through here for me. But Josh Jacobs and the Raiders traveled to Miami to play the Dolphins this week, who are 12.5-point favorites, the Dolphins are. And I think this game could be a little closer than people are thinking for a large majority of it. I could definitely see the Dolphins pulling away with it in the end, but ever since the Raiders fired their head coach, Josh McDaniels, they have looked like a completely new team with new energy and juice all around them. That new interim coach has really, really brought a whole new energy to this team, and they're playing like a brand new team. Over the last 2 weeks, they have been feeding the shit out of Josh Jacobs. Last 2 weeks, Jacobs had 29 total touches and 26 total touches. So they were giving that man the ball. And it's definitely a big uptick in his touches, considering before that, in the 8 weeks previous, he was averaging just 20 touches. So it's an extra like 6 to 9 touches a game, which is great for one of these bets. All you can ask for is as many chances as you can get. If he's getting the ball more, there's a good chance he's getting more yards. I'd hope. But Jacobs has cleared this line of 82.5 receiving plus rushing in 7 of 10 games this year, including 7 of his last 8. He's averaging 87.5 R plus R yards a game. And I know that's not a lot higher than what we need here, but Jacobs had a tough first 2 games of the year. He sat out for a little bit because he was trying to get a new contract, and they gave it to him like a week before the season started. So he ended up sitting out all of training camp, missing out on a lot of practices. But like I said, he started out a little rough in those first 2 games of the season. So if you take out those and take an average of the last 8 games, he's averaging 95 receiving plus rushing yards a game, which is a lot more than 87.5. I think Josh Jacobs is one of the last remaining big bell cow backs in the league where he just gets a ridiculous amount of carries and the team can literally just lean on him. And I'd love to see him continue to eat up some touches this week and hopefully go over this mark.
Yeah, they've been feeding him ever since, like you said, the new interim coach or whatever came in. I like the bet. Obviously, he's gonna get his touches. That's the way their offense should be. It should revolve around him and Devontae Adams. One thing that does scare me with that is it is in Miami, and if it's a close game, I don't see this being an issue hitting. This should hit if it's a close competitive game, but Miami is they're very solid at home. So the only thing that would stop this, I think, would be a blowout, which I don't see happening just because of the way the Raiders have been playing, especially their defense. Shout out Robert Spillane. He's looking like prime Ray Lewis back there. But yeah, the Ravens are a new team. So
yeah, bringing a new energy. I'm swinging it back.
Okay. Right. So moving on to my player prop, we're going to go with a guy who I think I've bet on twice this year already, I think. So I'm taking Derrick Henry over 56.5 rush yards against the Jaguars, and I got the at minus 115 on DraftKings. So last week, Derrick Henry had a super disappointing week. I think he ended with 24 rushing yards. But if you look back at his games this season, the games that he's had, low rushing yards, like 20 to 30, he's responded the next game. And I think he's been a player like that his whole career of responding back from bad games. And I think the Titans offense, they clearly can't rely heavily on Levis. He's a rookie. A lot of defenses in the league, they can feast on rookies just because they haven't, they don't have that experience. So this mark, he has gone over in 6 of 9 games this year. So that's pretty telling sign that he's going to get the ball. And against the Jaguars, he's gone over this mark 6 times in a row. And they're like huge numbers. They're like 100 plus almost every single time. And one thing about Derrick Henry is he loves playing divisional opponents. He usually goes off against divisional opponents. And I think Mike Vrabel is going to want to establish the run and beat down on the Jaguars after they just got embarrassed by the 49ers. So, I'm going to get back on the Derrick Henry grind. And even though he's, getting old and slowing down a little bit, he's still a phenomenal player. And you don't get called King Henry for nothing. So,
Yeah, and I know you often always go with old reliable. Derrick Henry is definitely an old reliable for you. I think you're, like you said, you're 1-1 with him, but I think you've always had him in fantasy like 2 of the last 3 years. He's come in clutch for you a lot of times, and like you said, every time he plays an AFC South divisional game, he turns it up an extra level. It feels like.
yeah, and I just thought 56.5 was low. I mean, I know he hasn't been like Derrick Henry we all know this year, but I feel like it's low, and I know the Jags are a good defense, but he loves divisional opponents, so
Yeah,
hopefully that hits.
Feels like a great buy low spot for him.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, it's that time of the week. We're going to our shameful locks. These are going to be our best bets. Blake is 6-0 in these so far this year. I am 3-3. Hopefully to come out here above 500 here soon. Hopefully we can get that right this week. So I'm going to go to a play that Blake ran a few weeks ago for his shameful lock, but I'm stealing it here. I'm going to Saquon Barkley over 68.5 rushing yards. I got this at -110 at Bet365. And I love this play this week. I want to bring it back to another bell cow back, one the team really loves to lean on. So he's going to get a lot of opportunities to get the ball and get a large workload. But Saquon Barkley and the Giants travel to Washington this week to play the Commies, who are 9.5-point favorites. And I get why they're favored because the Giants kind of stink and they're sending out their third-string quarterback, who is a rookie, in Tommy DeVito. But since they're sending him out there, the Giants offense should definitely run through Saquon Barkley yet again. Saquon has cleared this mark of 68.5 rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. His one miss was last week in a big blowout loss to the Cowboys, where the final score was 49-17, and Saquon only had 13 carries for 66 yards. He was running the hook, but he didn't really play a lot in the second half because it was a blowout, and usually if it's a blowout, you don't want to play your best players who happen to be a little bit more injury prone. But I do want to talk about why I love this matchup. And Saquon has already rushed for 77 yards against the Commies 2 weeks ago when they played them. And the Commies D has gotten much worse since then. The last time they played, the Commies had a lot of big players on their defensive line. They still had Chase Young and Montez Sweat, and they traded them away after they lost that game to the Giants. So they're filling a lot of gaps in their defensive line with some backups now, which is great for the offensive line of the Giants and Saquon. So hopefully he can do what he already did 2 weeks ago with a little bit easier of a matchup and easier competition for them.
Yeah, I mean, usually Saquon plays pretty well against the Commies. Looking at this, I just looked it up. He averages 89 yards a game versus them. And
Wow.
a name you also didn't mention was Chase Young. I mean, they lost him as well, and he's a pretty good defender, pretty good run stopper. But yeah, like they're another team where they should be running the offense through Saquon Barkley, especially given, like you said, they have a backup quarterback in. They're 2-8, 2 and something. They're terrible, but regardless, Saquon should get the ball almost every single play, in my opinion. So I love this pick. I hope he has a big game because he's on my fantasy roster. So yeah, I'll probably tail this one. I like it a lot.
Sweet.
Okay, so moving on to my player prop.
See what Blake's got here.
My shameful lock. So
Let's go.
I'm also going to go with a running back who's starting to turn into a little bit of a bell cow. He's moved into probably the starting role. He's taken some shares, most of the shares because of injury, but that is Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm going to take his over 24 and a half receiving yards versus the Bears, and I got this at minus 120 on DraftKings. So, like I said, David Montgomery was getting the majority of the carries, the touches, everything. Then he got hurt, and then it was Jahmyr Gibbs' time to shine, and he really moved into that running back one bell cow type deal where he's going to get the ball just because of how explosive he is. Just watch him; he is such a dynamic player. He's shifty, he's quick, he's fast. They're going to be relying on him out of the backfield, I think, um, just because of all those trends he has. So the Bears give up the most receiving yards to running backs a game at 61 yards. They get absolutely torched out of the backfield, and I think that's just because they don't really have great linebackers. They don't have great cover guys, and they're. I feel like they're just mostly trying to keep a cap on things because their defense kind of sucks. Um, Jahmyr Gibbs, he has 5+ targets in 4 straight games. So Jared Goff is throwing him the ball. They love those little screen passes and check downs just to get the offense going and getting Jahmyr Gibbs the ball, obviously. 2 weeks ago, Kamara had 44 receiving yards against the Bears, and 3 weeks ago, Eckler had 94 receiving yards. So Bears are super susceptible to running backs out of the backfield getting receptions and receiving yards. And it's a divisional game. I think it could be low scoring, but I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I like this line a lot. 24 and a half. I thought that was pretty low. I think he could get that. He could get that in one catch for all that matters with how good he is. So that's my lock of the week. And yeah, hopefully it hits.
Yeah, as always, I'll be tailing that one. I'm kind of surprised about that line. You said like 24 and a half. I thought that would be in the 30s for Gibbs, especially. I guess I know Montgomery's back this week, but still, like Montgomery doesn't steal catches from him. He
Right.
steals
Yeah.
rushing yards from him. So it's definitely a kind of a weird line to me. But I mean, I'm like 6-0 anyway. I mean, what am I going to do? Not tail? Um,
Knock on wood.
but real quick, we got one more last thing for you guys, real quick, before we go here. We are going to bring back our joint TD parlay. We did not do one last week just because we had a lot to go through and there were 3 of us. But since it's back to 2 of us, we're going to dive back in this week. And we are 3-2 on these week or this year. We've won our last 3 straight. Our last one we cashed was plus 841. It was a big one. This one is definitely not that big. It's probably actually our lowest one. This week's one is actually our lowest one, but again, it's still plus 250. We'll talk about it here in a second, but again, we're hot on these, so hopefully we can keep up winning ways on these. But I'll start us off here. We both just pick one guy we like to score a touchdown, and then we parlay them and then run it. So this week I'm going with Austin Eckler to score a touchdown, anytime touchdown scorer. I got this for minus, I think 120-ish on ESPN Bet. Shout out ESPN Bet, formerly Barstool. Eckler has scored 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games. He plays the Packers this week, who got torched by the Steelers run game last week, giving up 200 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Hopefully Eckler can at least get in the end zone, whether it's receiving or rushing.
Oh yeah. Love it. So my touchdown pick, I'm going with Tony Pollard. And crazy enough, he hasn't scored since week 1.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that from I saw it was like ESPN posted or something. So I think that's the anti-jinx. So I think he's definitely going to score. And they're playing the Panthers. Like Panthers are just they're terrible. Like I think the spread's like minus 10.5. So I mean, could be in for a Cowboys letdown performance, but I think Tony will get into the end zone. Just because classic, he's due. He's due.
He's due. He's due. I like it. I like it.
So I don't know what the odds are. I know Gabe. I let Gabe calculate that, find the best odds. So
they were about minus 110 as well. But again, we only go for the parlay of these 2, and the best value you could get on this was on ESPN Bet. We got this at plus 250. Again, it's a little lower than our last one of 841, but hey, cashing a plus 250 bet is never anything to hang your head low on.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, 3 in a row. I think, both these guys have a great chance of scoring this week. So let's make it 4.
Hey, need it. good luck to everybody on your bets this week. Hopefully you tail us and we win. That'd be ideal for me. I don't know about you guys, but big fan of that idea. Closing remarks, Blake? Anything?
Yeah, a shout out to our boy Mike over at Sloppy Joe's, best bouncer in the country. Um, if you know, you know.
Oh my
Dave.
god, dude! I haven't thought about that in 2 days. I need to go watch that video.
But regardless, like the video, comment, uh, tell us what you think about our picks below. Yeah, just whatever you think.
Hey, shout out Iron Mike. Bless him, and I hope he gets in another fight. And I hope he gets his ass kicked and then just goes right back to work with blood all over his shirt.
Hell yeah, beast.
Love it. All right, that'll be it for us for week 11. See you guys for week 12.
Peace.